Alright, so today we're going to talk about acidity. We've come a long way for everybody to understand what acidity is in coffee. The statement of acidity in coffee is not about the stomach and all, is kind of an old thing and it's an obvious thing. Let me still start off with one thing, that acidity in coffee is basically, let's keep it as a simple phenomena, the sourness in coffee. Alright, now as you know that every aspect of tasting, be it sweet, be it sour, be it bitter, it has got a good component, it has got a bad component or a negative connotation as well. Similarly, when I say acidity in coffee and sour, it could be a good pleasant sourness or it could be a sharp, really brutal sourness. So acidity in general is sourness in the coffee. Now what is it, where does it come from, how do you extract that, how do you play around that, is it important in coffee? So how do you basically kind of extract the right amount of acidity or sourness from processing, from roasting, from brewing? So these are the factors that we'll be talking about. So basically, sourness or the acidity in coffee can be extracted due to processing, with the help of roasting, with the help of brewing. Every part has got a role to play. Every process has got a role to play. Now, processing is way complex than we really understand even in 2022. There are a lot of researches that are coming in. There are a lot of processes also which are coming in, which kind of primarily as a baseline kind of shows that okay, this has kind of changed the pH or the acidity or the sweetness or anything in the coffee. But at the same time, there are other researches going on which really does not confirm the ideology. So I would try to keep away from the processing side of things as of now, and I just focus on the roasting and the brewing side of things and the cupping side of things for sure. Acidity is in literally every fruit, every component, almost all beverages. You need acidity in your food, in your beverage. Probably you don't really consciously understand that it has got acidity, but it's very important to have. It's a very important component. So anybody who's joining in into the specialty coffee industry, and they kind of have a light roasted coffee for that matter, or they're introduced to a light roasted coffee by their friend, and they when they consume that coffee, it's super fruity or acidic. It may be a little bit repulsive, maybe because usually you're used to the coffees which are smoky, bitter, ashy, or maybe dark chocolatey kind of thing. It'll be a surprising factor for you, but more often than not, it so happens that you move towards the light roasted coffees. You move towards a more delicate kind of set of coffees. Like the same thing happened in the beer industry as well. Initially, everybody was having like a bitter beer, a super bitter dark lager, or a bold kind of beer. But gradually, with more companies and specialty breweries coming in, what happened was the market was introduced towards a softer note, different flavors in coffee which were naturally there sometimes, different fermentation techniques, and then that brought out the perceived acidity. So the acidity was always there, the perceived acidity started kicking in. And if you want to see a timeline in coffee, it was bitter, 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 and then medium coffee, medium coffee, light roasted coffee. That's how the trajectory of Indian coffee has been so far. There are a lot of factors actually involved in developing that acidity in coffee. Now, so many factors, like for example, the altitude of the cherry that coffee is growing at. Higher the altitude, lower the temperature. Once the temperature gets lower, everything starts getting processed inside very slow. So for example, if you're in polar regions, over there your movements kind of start becoming slower, sluggish kind of a thing. Similarly, imagine a coffee plant. Higher the altitude, again as I said, the temperature goes down, so it gets more time to pack in the nutrients. That basically increases the sweetness in coffee, and that increases sugars in coffee, which in turn converts into the acids, and that makes the coffee a little bit more potentially acidic. That is one of the places where acidity comes from. But there are several factors after that, like what kind of processing did you do to that, how did you process that coffee. Roasting affects the taste of the coffee, of course everybody knows that, but there are particular techniques by which you can extract or you can highlight the acidity in coffee. So there's a term that, when roasters speak, that are you roasting for acidity, are you roasting for sweetness, are you roasting for balance, so these are terms that are usually technically used. So when I'm saying I'm roasting for acidity, so probably after the drying phase I would kind of stretch the roasting curve a little bit. All right. And by stretching the roasting curve, what I mean is I will give more time for the coffee between the turning point and between the first, after the turning point and the first crack. It is a little technical what I'm saying, but fine. So that's one of the things by which you can increase the acidity. And it's not a ball, it's not something that you have to stretch. It's one of the ways. Then you come to the brewing side of things. So brewing is fairly easy, I would say, to extract the acidity. That you kind of go lower in temperature. You could probably increase the grinds. So not increase, you can use coarser coffee. You could not agitate it, all these things by which the acidity could come out. So that's how important and that's how complex acidity is, and at such different levels the acidity is extracted. Why is acidity important? I think acidity is important because at times when you eat food, you may not appreciate salt in food till the time it is there. But the moment salt is taken out, the food is bland, right? Similarly, acidity in coffee is super important, and the moment it is taken away, you would find that the coffee is not complete. So here is a very interesting exercise that you can do it at home. I'll tell you about the pour over also. I'll tell you about the espresso also. Now the first thing that gets extracted is the sourness and the fats. Then comes the sweetness, and the next last thing that gets extracted is the fiber from the coffee plants. That is the bitterness kind of a thing. So that's why if you over extract the coffee, you will find that little planty, little grassy kind of a note. We've done espresso salami. There's a link below. Have a look at that also. So espresso salami, you take the first 10 seconds of the espresso shot, and then you gather the next two 10 and 10 seconds together. So you have 2 cups with you, and this one will be like super salty, sweet, bitter and acidic, and there'll be a lot of things happening in this cup. Similarly in the pour over also, we'll show you the cup right now. When you're making a pour over, extract the first 75 ml in a different cup. So you've poured the coffee, you've extracted the 75 ml, and 75, 60, whatever. First part of the 3 parts of the coffee, extract in 1 cup. Then when you're pouring for the next 2 parts, just remove the cup and capture that thing in 1 vessel. So you'll have 2 cups, one which will be having first part of the coffee, which is the acids and the fats, and the other will be having the components of sweetness and the bitters. Now you just have the sip and you'll find out what acidity exactly kind of is. And when you have these two, you'll find it to be really empty or something missing. So these are the 2 cups. This is a pour over, right? And 75 ml was poured, and this is the first 75 ml that has been extracted. This is the last 150, that is 75 plus 75 is equal to 150 ml that has been extracted over here. All right, fats and acid in this, and this is the bitters and the sugars. So this has got like that acidity punch you have. The best example why acidity is important. Here, you tell me the first word that comes to your mind.
First word.
And watery rundown. This is just water, like this is just hot water, yeah. And the moment we mix this, the moment you mix the acid, the first part with the second part, it's magic, right? So this is what it does. So you try this at home, right? I guess this is the first experiment that somebody can say, try this at home. So this would kind of, you'll understand how acidity plays a major role in making a coffee. So it just balanced the coffee out entirely, and it was giving a nice beautiful taste. Three tips for using acidic coffee. Acidic coffees usually do not work for chocolate making or bakery or baking of products, because as far as I've spoken to the bakers and how much ever I've worked with them, we've come to a conclusion and understanding that you need a little bit of dark chocolate or a chocolatey kind of note towards the coffee when you want to bake. So if any baker who is watching this video and has got some other opinion or a tip on how to use acidic, that is light roasted coffees in bakery, please feel free to help us and let us know. Tip number 2 to use acidic coffee. Try to, once you made a pour over an espresso or a aeropress in by a fruitier or a floral coffee, you can just add a pinch of salt, just a pinch of salt, and see how the coffee just becomes so super balanced. You can also add pinch of sugar, but I am kind of against sugar in coffee, so you could like just put a pinch of salt in that. So tip number 3 about acidic coffees. Now what is going to happen is, when you brew the coffee at a lower temperature, the acidic coffees, you will have the perceived acidity higher, but when you brew it at a higher temperature, say 94-96 degrees Celsius, the acidity will be there, but it will kind of be masked by the bitterness that gets extracted, and you'll find a much balanced cup. So suit yourself and brew the coffee according to that temperature. Anyway, this is the part of the video that you will not watch and you're gonna skip. So you please like, share and subscribe the YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you guys. Cheers.